and on behalf of the entire JMA team, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you for today's session under the Business Acumen and Knowledge by Experts, that is our B.A.K.E Talk series on From Aspirations to Actions, Achieving India's Developed Nation Target by 2047. We are privileged to have with us Mr. Krishan Kalra as the distinguished speaker. The session will be graciously moderated by Dr. Rahul Kumar Shukla. Let me give a brief intro of Dr. Rahul Kumar Shukla. He is a professor in the General Management area at XLRI and also serves as the convener of the Xavier Aptitude Test, that is ZET, and chair of XLRI admissions. A Fulbright and a Startup Fellow at the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Shukla has led the international project New Direction, New People on second language acquisition. At XLRI, he teaches managerial and leadership communication and is widely recognized for his innovative pedagogy and deep industry insights. As a sought-after corporate trainer, Dr. Shukla has designed and delivered impactful programs on communication, critical thinking, and decision-making for leading organizations such as ArcelorMittal Nippon, Maruti Suzuki, IOCL, HPCL, NTDB, Tata Power, and Tata Technologies. He has also served as adjunct and visiting professor at IIM Kozhikode and IIM Kashipur, and has previously taught at EGII Ahmedabad, Symbiosis International University, and JUIT Solon. With this, I request Dr. Rahul Kumar Shukla to kindly take the session forward and introduce our distinguished speaker, Mr. Krishan Kalra. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. I'm honored and humbled. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to this B.A.K.E talk hosted by the Jamshedpur Management Association. You've already been told that I am Rahul Kumar Shukla and I've been associated with XLRI for last 10 years. Currently, I'm taking care of XLRI admissions and I'm also a part of Xavier Aptitude Test. I'm convener of it and I'm involved in conducting the test and also for helping associate schools in getting the better candidates for their PGDM and MBA programs. So as far as our talk is concerned, our theme today is From Aspirations to Actions, Achieving India's Developed Nation Target by 2047. This is a bold and inspiring goal for all of us as Indians, and it raises big questions about the policies, reforms, and collective actions needed in the years ahead. To guide us through this journey, we are privileged to have with us Mr. Krishan Kalra. Mr. Kalra has had a distinguished career spanning more than 4 decades. An engineer by training, he began his career with ESSO and later held senior positions with the L&T Group and the DCM Shriram Group. He went on to lead INA LSA Limited as its managing director for 20 years. After that, he moved into leadership roles in India's premier business chambers, serving as Additional Secretary General at FICCI, Secretary General of the PhD Chamber of Commerce, and as President of All India Management Association. Alongside his corporate leadership, he also contributed to academia as a member of the Board of Governors at IIM Calcutta. Since his retirement, he has dedicated himself fully to voluntary work in skill development, cancer care, environmental conservation, and empowerment of persons with disabilities. He also serves as a trustee of the Climate Project Foundation India and president of the National Olympics Association of India. Mr. Kalra is also a prolific writer, contributing regularly to leading management and business journals on issues ranging from sustainability and inclusivity to national growth and societal well-being. It is truly an honor to have him with us today. Welcome, Mr. Kalra. The virtual floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Shukla and Srikriti, for your very kind and very generous introduction. Maybe I don't deserve half of that, but anyway, thank you very much. I'm very delighted. First of all, I want to once again congratulate Jamshedpur Management Association and the office bearers on winning the Best LMA Award at the recently held National Management Convention of AIMA.
Thank you, sir.
I'm actually honored that you've invited me to share my thoughts about it. And I think, incidentally, I've been to your beautiful city of Jamshedpur. I was there last October. This is almost 11 months ago, where we had the regional competition of the Olympics Association. And we got the opportunity to meet with a lot of people from the Tata Group. I visited the Tata Center of Excellence also, and they gave me two beautiful books. One is about Jamshedpur, 100 years and going. And I've loved going through that book. It's kind of a comfortable book. And also the biography of Sir Jamshedji Tata. So these are lovely. I think it's a beautiful town you are in. I like the theme that you have said, that from aspirations to execution, which is, as we are all aware, our Achilles heel. In India, we do have, as in any country, we do have huge aspirations, but we do falter on when it comes to execution of those. But anyway, things are changing and hopefully it'll be better. Now, what I want to start with is this is that over the last 10 years, our position on the global high table has improved hugely. You don't get a call from President Putin of Russia to brief you about his meeting with President Trump of USA, or a call from Zelensky to seek advice about his peace efforts with Russia, or for that matter, President Macron of France I've been calling Mr. Modi and saying about that I want to discuss about the peace efforts in Middle East. That happens only when a country has an eminent status on the global stage, has a place on the global high table, and they feel that the council of the country and the prime minister matters. And that comes only if you are a strong and a stable economy. So I think we have reached that place, and I'm very happy about that. And we are all aware that how we were totally ignored by the rest of the world just about 10 years or 15 years ago or 20 years ago. I've seen that personally. I'm sure many of you have seen that also. First, a few words about what we have actually achieved. I think our achievements over the last 10 years or 15 years are huge. They're tremendous. I think we made a lot of progress as far as GDP growth. 6.5% sustained GDP growth is no mean task. It's the highest among all the larger countries in the world, and we've been able to do that. Then what we have done work on the digitization is absolutely unbelievable. Our digitization is the envy of the world today. For example, just to quote a few things, that some 44 lakh crores was transferred directly under the DBT to the poor people. Earlier, we used to hear that a rupee given by the government to any poor only 19 paisa reaches him or her. But now, hopefully, all the 100 paisa are reaching about that. Are 50 crore digi lockers in the country with 1,000 crore documents lying there. Or for that matter, that in just 1 month of April 2025, UPI transactions were worth 24 lakh crore in just 1 month. I mean, these are things they just don't happen. We have really done, our country has done. And on top of it all, the cost of data in our country is the lowest in the world. I believe the estimated cost is only 10 paisa per GB. Now, this is great. Our election commission also is doing a superb job. It has done a superb job over the last 50 years, 60 years. And we've done a lot of work on the infrastructure, including building increasing the railway network, the highways network, airports, ports, telecommunication, etc. All that is fantastic. And I think the goal for 2047 that has been set by the Prime Minister is also a great goal. And it is our duty that each one of us tries to achieve that. But now this is where I come to the difference between will we become a developed nation if we reach, the government target is to reach a GDP of 30 trillion by 2047. Today we are at about 4 trillion, 30 trillion, which would translate to, at that time, our population is likely to be about 1.52 billion. So almost $20,000 per capita GDP. Personally, honestly, I don't think we'll achieve that. But I'll be very happy. I'm not going to be around, but the younger people here at the meeting today would see it. I would say that even if we reach $12,000 or we nudge $15,000, that'd be very nice as far as the GDP front is concerned. But achieving a GDP per capita alone is again not enough to become a developed country. And now I come to what do we need to concentrate on? And I would say that we need to concentrate more on it's very important for us to concentrate on societal maturity. And that I have a few points, 15 to 20 points that I'll illustrate one by one about this. But first of all, uh, let me make a small comment on this GDP growth. Now, GDP 4 trillion is fine, but it means a per capita GDP of less than $3,000. It's about $2,900 per capita, which puts us at a rank 141 out of 196 countries as per the last IMF report, which is nothing to be proud of, which I think which still makes us a poor nation if we look at the GDP per capita. And that is what is important. More than that, within the GDP per capita also, the distribution of income is not at all good. If I reduce out of this 4 trillion, I reduce the top 5%, that takes care of 2.5 trillion. So the rest 95% are left to divide the kitty, which is only 1.5 trillion, which works out to roughly $1,100 per head per capita GDP. And if another 5% is deleted, we would come down further. My own hunch is, although this is not an official figure from anywhere, that the bottom 5% of the country are living merely on about $0.50 a day, or let's say about $180 to $200 per capita, which is by all standards is not at all good. We've got to tackle this. This is an inclusivity issue. If we continue to have, as a matter of fact, I've noticed that Professor Rahul has, he has drafted some beautiful questions, which in many ways capture the gist of what my talk today is, and it'll be very interesting to understand from each other as to where we are heading. Okay, on top of my list of the things that need to be done is the fact that we are rapidly losing respect for human life, respect for laws of the country, respect for other people's property, respect for elder people, and things like that. Now, these are very important things. They come only with maturity of the society, and they do not come only with the GDP growth average. And the main reason for that, to my mind, is that our primary formative foundational education is of a very poor standard. It's in shambles. Some of you who are aware would agree with me that we're not doing a good job. We have lakhs of schools in the country, but many of these schools run without staff, without teachers, without amenities, without any equipment, etc., and all that. And to sort of buttress the claim that I am making, I don't know if you're aware, there is an annual survey called ASER, ASER, Annual Status of Education Report, which is done by the Pratham Group. The 2023 report made a damning comment. It said 14 to 18-year-olds are not able to read class 2 text fluently. Now, what can be worse than that? And they go on to add that we don't see much improvement over the last 10 years. Now, this is where we are lacking. Earlier, parents used to spend a lot of time with the kids. The education used to be what I call value education. People were, the kids were taught about respecting human life, respecting other people's property, respecting, to have decency, civic sense, etc., and all that, which seems to have totally disappeared. So unless we are able to re-establish value education at the formative age, I believe between the ages of 3 to about 7 or 8 years is the time when a child's brain is most receptive and is able to absorb most. There are other issues which I'll come to one by one, like water availability and the quality of water, air pollution control, solid waste management, and gender parity and public healthcare system. These are the major items which I'll come one to one. But let me first spend a few more minutes on the primary education issue. Now, I have quoted to you the ACER comments of the 2023 report. why for example, if you're going in the road, the guy on my left is driving a 2 crore or a 3 crore car, but he has no qualms about opening the door and throwing the remains of the pan in his mouth, or flicking his, cigarette ash on the ground. I mean, because they don't think the road belongs to them. The road they feel belongs to someone else. It is their man. Then there was a report that in just one state of Jharkhand, I'm mentioning Jharkhand because you are located in Jharkhand, there are 8,000 schools which are officially known as single teacher schools. This one single teacher is the teacher, he is the manager, he is the kitchen manager, he is the security man, everything that he is supposed to do. How will he find time to really teach the children under his charge? Or the lack of civic sense extends to even things like playing loud music till 2 a.m. at night, throwing garbage all over the place, things like that. We have this tradition of langars in our country. Rich people who can afford, they arrange at every other street corner, they arrange food, and they're doing a great job and feeding the poor people with good food and all that. But what happens after the langar ends? Everybody walks away, and the leftover food and the dirty plates, etc., keep lying there on the ground. No one bothers to clean those things. Now, these are the gaps in our primary education. We are rightly very proud of our IIMs and IITs and other places of higher education like XLRI. Wonderful. I have a lot of respect for XLRI, and I know a lot of friends from XLRI. They are there, and children and all that. Even I must mention, even though IITs and IIMs also struggle when they want to hire proper faculty or something like that, or when they want to fix the fees, etc., like that. But still, I think they're producing great products. They're producing, but I think it is time now that we take in hand the very, very tough job of improving our primary education. I say very, very tough job because the numbers involved are enormous, huge. Crores of children every year enter the schooling age, and they sort of need to be taught. I connect it. I'm quite convinced that a lack of primary education, lack of value education is responsible for a lot of the heinous crimes that take place in the country, like murders and rapes and things like that. And that needs to be, first of all, that will be on top of my list to do that. Water availability and quality. What has happened is that the civic authorities, in hand in glove with the builders who build, we are covering every square inch of land available in every big city. Hopefully, it does not happen in Jamshedpur, which is a beautiful city and beautifully managed, but it is happen in all the metros and other tier 2 towns also. That the damage of that is that the natural drainage channels of the city get totally blocked. So what do we do? When it rains, the water just flows down on the roads. 1 hour of rain floods the roads into 1 feet or 2 feet of water, and people find it sort of they can't navigate their way to their homes or their offices or schools or colleges or wherever they have to go, places of work. Now that has to change. And the water aquifers do not get charged. When I moved to Gurgaon in 2004, the water level in our city was on an average of 30 to 35 feet. Excuse me. Today we are at a subsoil water level of between 250 to 350 feet. We keep going deeper to take water. We use more powerful submersible pumps and we do that. But how are we going to make enough water available? Thankfully, the total condensation in the country, the rainfall in the country, the water, if we were able to capture 100% of it, is more than enough, 5 times or 6 times our total need in the country. But you might be surprised to know that our capture is only 8% of the rainfall that happens in the country, because it just flows down on concrete into nalas and rivers and ultimately into the sea without having been utilized. As for the quality of the water is concerned, again, one is ashamed to say that our factories, without any qualms, discharge their highly toxic effluents into the rivers and they get away with not much fines, etc., and all that. Now, unless we change that, and I, at this point of time, I want to share with you an experience that I had at a factory in Germany. We were visiting Dow Chemical. This was in the year 2000. And after we saw the factory, we were taken to the effluent treatment plant. And as we came out to the effluent treatment plant, there was a channel about 50 feet wide, just about 3 to 4 feet deep, and maybe about 300 to 400 meters long. We were told this is the aeration chamber of the treated water which has come. So, and at the end of the channel, the engineer who was taking us around took out a paper cup from his jacket pocket, filled it up from the channel, and drank it in front of all of us. We were aghast. We were about 25, 30 of us, including Minister Suresh Prabhu, who was leading the delegation. And, so this guy saw a reaction and he said, I know that you people are not comfortable with anyone drinking a cup of water from the effluent treatment plant, but I wanted to make a point that the quality of our effluent treatment is so good that what we release after that is potable water. Now, that is the kind of state we may never reach there, but we should at least have water which does not have the toxicity, which does not have deadly chemicals, which does not have arsenic and other things and dyes, etc., and all that we will be able to do. I next move to air pollution. We are all aware that cities like Beijing and London were filthy cities at one time. They've been able to get their art together. But why can't, particularly NCR, National Capital Region, I think the air quality is a bit better in Jamshedpur or others, some of the other places like that, despite big factories there and big chimneys belching out smoke. I think they are under control. But in NCR, the AQI goes up to 500. And as the US Embassy demonstrated last year, that 500 was also there because our meters were not, recording anything more than 500. They installed their own AQI meters, and they came up with the shocking finding that the AQI in Delhi was close to 1,000 actually, and we were just hiding the fact from the public. I mean, can you imagine that a city like Gurgaon, which is known as the Millennium City, which one can laugh at that name that it is. Gurgaon, Gurgaon has a diversity. Gurgaon has built world-class residential and commercial and retail complexes, but the infrastructure, civic infrastructure, is totally third class. We get flooded in the rains. We have very poor air quality. We have very poor quality and not enough water or power supply or things like that. We've got to handle this. I don't know why I can't. I can't believe that the problem is beyond the capabilities of our eminent engineers and scientists and managers. I think it's the political will which is lacking. Just to share with you, for the last 6 months, the city of Gurgaon does not have a single AQI reader. Now the government has taken the decision. They're going to get 6 more readers and all that. So this is another issue which needs to be tackled. Next, I come to solid waste management. Solid waste management, again, at least I've personally seen in Mumbai and in Delhi and in Gurgaon, Faridabad and Ghaziabad, etc., and all that. There are huge mountains of solid waste which keep rising year after year. And the main reason for that is that on an average, if I generate, for example, 1 kilo of solid waste every day from my house, only 100 grams should reach, 10% should reach the landfill, which these mountains are made of, landfills and all that. But actually 60 to 70% at times, even 80% are reaching because we don't do composting of our wet waste at home. We do not, if we can't do individual composting, I'm sure we can get together 20 houses or 50 houses or 200 houses and have a community place to do the composting. After composting, then we must do recycling, etc., and all that. Eventually, the landfill must not receive more than 10% of the total waste generated by it. Those of you who are familiar with Delhi would find that no matter in what direction you move, either towards Ghaziabad, towards the north, or towards the Punjab, sorry, Ghaziabad will not be in the north, or towards Punjab to the north, or you move towards any other direction, you find these mountains every year, they keep rising and rising. So that is something which has to be tackled. We will not be able to claim being a developed country unless we tackle this issue. Then I come to public health care. First of all, I must admit that the public healthcare system has seen huge amount of improvement in the country. Our child mortality has come down drastically. Our maternal deaths in childbirth, mothers dying in childbirth, has come down drastically. Our life expectancy, which at the time of the partition in 1947 was only about 35 or 36 years, has risen to about 68 years. It has risen. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm finishing my tea along with my talking. The malaria education eradication program has done a good job. Pulse polio mission has done a great job, but there are disturbing reports about malfunctioning of PHC. Those of you who are ever visited any primary health center in a rural or a semi-rural area will find that more often than not, there is no doctor there, there's no nurse there, there is no equipment there, the place has not even been swept and terrified. It happens in the majority of the public health, primary health centers and all that. Our country already has the dubious distinction of being the diabetes capital of the world. And we are now hurtling towards becoming cancer capital and obesity capital. I can quote this about cancer because I have been serving on the committee of the second largest cancer hospital in the country. This is the Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute, Rajiv Gandhi Hospital for Cancer Treatment and Research on the subject. Now, these are shocking things. People don't realize that bad quality of air and poor health care is compromising the lives of our children and older people particularly. Our children probably are losing, there are various estimates, between 5 to 7 years of their lifespan by ingesting poor quality air. Their lungs get sort of compromised, the tar deposit gets deposited in their lungs, etc. and all. Now I move to gender parity. Gender parity is a great slogan. We feel very happy when a newspaper report says that 11 of the top 25 people who passed out of the civil services exam were girls. It's a great thing. We also every other day hear names of brilliant women who occupy the corner office in large corporation, not only in India but in the rest of the world also. Nari Shakti seems to be making great sort of strides. But look at the bigger picture. Look at the whole numbers. For example, before preparing this talk, I checked that what is the percentage of women in our parliament among our MPs, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. And you'll be shocked to know it is just 13% of them are women, although the number of voters is 48% of the total voters are women. Are in the assemblies, it's even poorer. It's 8% in the assemblies which are occupied, the position occupied by the woman. Or, for example, IAS, which also, I talked about the IAS 2024 exam where 11 girls were among the top 2025 exam. But the total number of women in the IAS as for 2020 figures was just 12.3%. Pathetic. Then if we come to the corporate sector, which is supposed to be leading in this, again, the total number of women in the CEO position and senior management position is 26%. I don't know where is the cutoff, but I think they have counted people above general manager and above and directors and presidents and vice presidents, things like that. And they've come to the figure of 26% and all that. Indigo Airline, we are all proud of Indigo Airline because it has done a fantastic job. I happened to meet Mr. Rahul Bhatia recently, who is the chairman of Indigo, and I congratulated him. I said, sir, I believe Indigo employs as many as 800 women pilots. He says, yes, Mr. Kalra, we are also happy about this. I said, but how many pilots do you have total? And then sheepishly he said 5,000. Now, if you look at the percentage, it is only 16%. So that is where, 16% of 5,000 would be 800. That would be the figure. So gender parity, I think today is a slogan, and the real gender parity, I think, is a long way off. Even the Chief Justice of India made a comment recently that the number of lady judges in the judiciary, lower judiciary, mid-level judiciary, the High Court, and the Supreme Court is, appallingly low, nowhere near 50%. It is very, very low. So that's another thing which needs to be tackled. I next come to contribution of manufacturing to GDP. I'm not trying to run down services. Our services have done a fantastic job, and we are known in the world today for the good services that we provide, which are companies like TCS and Infosys and Wipro and HCL, and they are doing is a great job. But to provide more jobs and to become Atmanirbhar, to use the term that the Prime Minister often uses, I think we have to have at least a 25% share of the total GDP through manufacturing. That will create millions of jobs. That will create, will reduce our sort of imports, etc., and all that, and bring it to a balance. Now, here there are a few steps I can suggest. One is monetization of PSUs which are not functioning optimally. Second is, by the way, the present level, the other is, which is a major step, is increasing R&D. The present level of R&D expenditure in our country today is a pathetic 0.33% of GDP. Whereas if you compare this with some of the other countries, I believe it's 2.4% in China, 3.5% in the US, about 1.8% in Japan, and those are the kind of figures. We must raise it to at least 2% if we want to do. Why our pharma exports, we're very happy, but what do we export? We export mostly generic drugs. We don't export any patented drugs. We don't take patents on that because that needs R&D, and we are just not spending money on R&D and all that. Here, we can learn a lot of lessons from our northern neighbor, China. China, for example, is, as I mentioned to you, is spending 2.4% on R&D. They have a committed goal. Their president has mentioned openly that we are determined to beat the West when it comes to new technologies. And they are doing that in many of the areas. They have already reached that position that they are open. And here I want to share with you the quotation of one of our great scientists, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar. Dr. R.A. Mashelkar once made a statement, and this was sometime in 95, 96, or 97, that research, just for the sake of research, has no meaning at all. Unless you can convert that into rupees, unless you can convert that to some benefit to factories or some benefit to society and all that. And he, this was called the corporatization of research. And you'll be happy to know that during 98, 99, at the 99 NMC, when I was fortunate enough to be the president at that time, Dr. Mashelkar was awarded the Tata AIMA award for corporate excellence or corporate citizen of the year or something like that. Some people question that how can a scientist become a good corporate citizen? But he is the guy who really laid the foundation of corporatization of research. That's what you got to do. China does that in a huge way. Now, Dr. Mashelkar told us when he delivered that lecture that I can file 500 patents or 1,000 patents. But what is the use unless some of these patents can be converted into improving our manufacturing, improving our processes, reducing our costs, using better material, lighter materials and things like that. Only then he says, I would feel happy that my research is of some use and all that. So that's the kind of, there was another comment on the same subject recently. Now this, when I say research, the government will not be able to do all the research by itself. It has to be a collaboration between the government and the industry. Now that is extremely important. I'm sure many of you have heard the name of the well-known thinker and economist Pratap Bhanu Mehta. He is a regular contributor, columnist in the newspapers. He, in a recent article in the Indian Express, he's a guy who normally criticizes the government, whichever is the establishment he criticizes, is known for that. This time, he was critical of the corporate sector. He said the government has done its job. Our corporate sector is totally risk averse. They're only looking for quick returns, etc., and all that. He said it's time for them to rise. Countries like Korea, countries like have created huge conglomerates like Samsung and Daewoo and others. He said, what have India got to show? Barring the top 3 or 4 houses which do some R&D, they also don't do enough, like Ambani's and Adani's and Bharti Airtel and Tata's and maybe Tata should be at the first place. I'm not saying these names in any particular order, but they're doing that. But he says that they must do. Now, this is a long gestation return. You don't get returns on R&D that you do. I mean, in a year or 2 years, it's something that you'll get the returns after 10 years, probably, or 15 years or 20 years. The government has to incentivize, educate the corporate sector to do more work on R&D. That is extremely important. Then there are points which I'll just quickly mention because I'm keeping a tab on the time. There are these very interesting questions from Professor Rahul, which we want to take and learn something from him, actually, not from me. Export push. We've got to, change our export basket, both geographically, go to other countries, and also content-wise, we have to add new products to it and all that. Logistics cost, extremely important if we want to become competitive in the world. I remember attending a logistics conference in Hamburg. Yeah, it was Hamburg in Germany about 15 years ago, where I learned that our cost of logistics at that time in India was between 13 to 16% of our export value, whereas in Europe, it was at 8%. So we were told that unless you take charge of that, how will you become competitive in the country? So for that, probably using multimodal system with waterways, railways, roads, etc., and cutting down on our paperwork that we do, probably will do that. New tourism centers. We've done a lot of work on tourism, but still we have only created one new tourism corridor, that is the religious tourism, Varanasi and Ayodhya and those places. But I think we can create 10 more corridors because we have everything that a foreign tourist needs. We have forests, we have wildlife, we have hills, mountains, we have beaches, we have religious tourism, heritage, everything is there. Only thing is we've got to get our act together, create facilities and infrastructure for them to, people can comfortably stay. We don't even need 5-star hotels for that. We need good 3 to 4-star hotels will do that. Infrastructure. We have done a lot of work on infrastructure. I mentioned that in the beginning. Our ports and airports, our railways and highways, a lot of work has been done. But to reach that kind of a GDP, we need to spend 1 trillion, which is 88 or 90 lakh crores a year for the next 10 to 12 years. Government has already increased their spend on infrastructure over the last few years. For example, in 2021, government spent 5 lakh crores and in 2024, 11 lakh crores. So maybe they will rise to 30 lakh crores, 40 lakh crore or 50 lakh crore, but the other 40 to 50 lakh crore must come from the private sector. Now, this is again a long gestation period. You don't build a road and start earning from year one. You'll probably start earning after 5 years or 10 years. You'll start earning in the like R&D. Infrastructure again is a long gestation. So government has to incentivize the private sector, prepare the private sector, to and facilitate their investment, make it hassle-free, make it less cumbersome. And when I say infrastructure, I include transportation, energy from all sources, water, real estate, everything included. Renewable energy. Again, a lot of work done on that, but our total installed capacity today, for example, of solar PVs is only 60 gigawatts. Our commitment to the International Solar Alliance is to reach 500 gigawatts by 2030. So we have a lot of gap to fill up. As against our 60 gigawatt, China is 390, USA is 110, and Japan is 90 gigawatts. So that's another area which has to be, if we truly mean transformation of our energy basket, we've got to concentrate more on, of course, our total installed capacity of renewable energy today is close to 230 gigawatts, which includes hydro, solar, wind, biomass, nuclear, etc. I'm counting nuclear also renewable. And then, of course, there is the holy grail, which is the green hydrogen. I guess we are getting there in green hydrogen also to be really, tackle the situation. Public transport. We talk about Hyperloop, 90 minutes from Delhi to Bombay, or we talk about flying pods, etc. To my mind, these are flights of fancy. We've got to get down to the ground level. And what we need is, like we have set up, let's say, the Delhi Metro or Metro in other major cities, I think we need efficient, fuel efficient public buses in which everyone should be, whether he is the president of a company or the chairman of a company, should feel comfortable traveling in those. Then only we'll be able to cut down personal transport to some extent and use the public transport much more on that. Now, that is extremely important to do that. The next year, 4 point I have here is to create some global hubs. There has been talk of global hub for auto industry, but I think there is room for setting up global hub for services, including hospitality also. We have everything there to do that, or for that matter, electric vehicles, things are electronics. Now that we're doing a lot of work on that, I think global hubs we should try and set up. Agri reform is a bitter pill, which has to be swallowed now. We did that about 5 years or 7 years ago, but then we caught on before the farmers' lobby and the government withdrew. But I don't think that is the right thing to do. I think we have to do that. And Modi is a man who probably has the courage, who has the, thinking to stand up to these people, explain to the farmers what they are losing. Our productivity, our yield per acre is among the lowest in the world. We've got to increase that. 65% of our people work in agriculture, but what do they produce? They remain poor people because their yield and even the nutrition value of our produce is not good enough. The second last point, the third last point is the curse of parallel economy. Now, parallel economy, black money, our demonetization of 2016 or 17 did not solve the problem. I think we've got to do. GST has done a lot of work in tackling that because a lot of the trade is getting onto the system. And if we follow all those trails, we'll be able to do that. But still, now today, the parallel economy may not be 50% of the total, but it still would be 30 to 35%. And to my mind, there is one of the biggest the subsets of parallel economy is property. People just do not register a property that they buy or sell at more than 50% of the real value. Now, and one of the reasons for that is that the property tax, the fee that has to be paid for registration of a property varies in the country from as low as 4% to about 9 or 10%. I would like to submit to the government, if somebody is listening, that if we reduce it to a token 0.5%, I think 90% of the people will then register their properties at the true value, and we may be able to reduce the amount of black money in their hand. The poor people, the small shopkeepers, the gig workers are using UPI today. So they are a part of the financial digitalized financial system. They will. So I don't think it's impossible to get out of that. Or they could think of imposing a small, maybe 0.001% transaction tax on all banking and UPI transactions. Nobody will mind it, but the whole thing will come into the formal economy system. Then there is the pendency in the courts, which also needs urgent resolution. And finally, I want to mention the point of ease of doing business. Recently, Swaminathan S. and Kalra Iyer came out with a report, which frankly I don't believe, but he quoted that one team lease study came out with a shocking finding that to set up a standalone solar plant in the country needs 2,735 compliances. Even if that is not correct, let us say I'm sure there are still 500 to 1,000 compliances. Now, that is what we've got to reduce. That adds to our logistics costs also and all that. We can't keep on doing about that. So are some of the points that I mentioned. The 2047 goal is fantastic. It is our moral, religious, ethical duty that we should all, because it's not something which only government can do. It will need the society, it will need industry, it will need intelligentsia, it will need civil society, it would need every citizen. I made a suggestion the other day to the new president who is from your town, Mr. Narendran. I said, sir, we should adopt at least one vertical to do some social service. And he said, okay, let's discuss about it. And I'll have a devoted, dedicated meeting to this subject. I agree with you. We should do that and take it up. As I mentioned earlier, and I'm repeating, that even if you reach a per capita GDP of, let's say about between $12 to $15,000 by 2047, that's good enough. But the soft things that I mentioned to you today, they have to be tackled. Unless we tackle those, we will not become a developed country. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. And now I think we'll move to, okay, I'll take another 30 seconds. The major items that I have mentioned, I want to recap: war on corruption, inclusivity, tax and big agriculture, removing politicians with criminal record. Why should they not be banned from seeking office? PDS scams, Ayushman Bharat scam, unwanted surgeries and diagnostics that are happening in the hospital, etc. Part of corruption and all that. Primary education, good water, enough water, good air, and this is what we need in short. Thank you very much for your patience. I apologize, but I think we started a little late. We did not start at 5, so probably.
Not at all, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shukla.
Thank you so much for this thought-provoking and insightful presentation. Honestly, I'm very impressed. I've given a lot of information to us to reflect upon. I would like to begin this conversation with a few questions which I already shared with you, right?
Yes,
and,
yes, I
want
have
others also to know about those questions, sir.
Yes.
Right. So the first question is like, if it's not a question, actually, I want to understand your take on this kind of issues or these kinds of issues which I'm going to bring forward. First is, we know that India's aspiration to become a developed nation by 2047 is inspiring, but it demands focused execution. If you have to pick 3 non-negotiables, for instance, they can be key policy actions or structural reforms that must be implemented in next 5 years, what they would be. And you also help us with your rationale why you have picked those 3 non-negotiables.
Professor Rahul, as I wrote to Srikriti, your questions are so good. They captured almost the entire talk that I've delivered today over the last 40-45 minutes. I think we're all thinking of the same lines we're thinking, because there is nothing different about. If I'm to name 3 goals, they would, of course, they will need policy action, they will need structured reform, they'll need everything. But the 3 goals, if I'm to name, I would once again say primary education is number 1, healthcare is number 2, and in healthcare we'll take care of quality of water and quality of air and things like that also. And the third, probably, I would say rule of law. Today my heart bleeds when I see on the road people without any qualms driving on the wrong side of the road and speeding on the wrong side of the road. They kill people going on the road, and then even if the police reaches there, they make a phone call to somebody, and in the next 2 hours they get a bail and get away with that. I would say that such cases, I mean, I don't want to use the word hang, but these are such cases, some exemplary punishment they should be given. At the least, their license should be cancelled. The government should make sure that they can't get the license anywhere in any state in the country, and their vehicles should be impounded and things like that. So we need strict action. We need action about, and same thing applies to healthcare and primary education and all that. If a PhD is not working, who is responsible for that? Whether it's the panchayat, whether it is the district officer or the district commissioner or whatever it is, they should be taken to task. So that is the way I think we can improve the execution of that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So you also talked about when you were discussing about R&D, right? You were talking about government should incentivize, right? Sector should come forward, right? I want to understand it in the context of Indian corporates, right? So when you talk about government, definitely government can give direction, but it is the responsibility of the industry to follow and contribute to the nation building, right? But again, when they have to invest in R&D, or when they have to invest in the areas where we can get into nation building, they require some kind of incentivization from the government, right? So I want to understand what kind of incentives or frameworks would encourage deeper private sector participation. Are there any global models which are followed across the world, which we can, if not copy, can replicate or create similar kind of models over here in our context?
Thank you, Professor Rahul. First of all, I want to put emphasis on the words that you have put in your question. You mentioned industry will be the real engine of change.
Correct.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I gave you the example of China, but we can't work the way China works because our governance system is very different. We are a democracy, they are an autocracy. We can't do that. The guarantees that the government can give to the corporate sector is that they would share whatever patents they are able to achieve. They would have, they would be able to share the spoils of that. How does the American R&D work? How do the American corporate systems work? Their pharma industry does R&D, and then they're allowed for a period of 10 years or 15 years, huge royalties and huge profits that they're making. Sometimes we do, we feel bad about the profit that the American pharma industry makes, but they do spend billions on R&D and doing that. Now that could be one model. Other model could be that whatever amount they spend on R&D, there could be 100% or 200% tax credit on that. That could be one, which is being done in Europe, which is being done when, I don't know whether it's being done in America or not, but some of the countries, they are doing that. And I think that's the kind of incentivization they can do. They can make, the corporations must become a part of the government, which they have to work together with the government to achieve the 2047 goal. Not only that, but they must assume what has got ownership of it. Now, unless they approve, they sort of assume and they are granted and they are recognized as owners of a system that is being done, I think they will not do that. That is the kind of thing that can be done for that.
Thank you. And finally, rapid growth sometimes deepen inequality, right? That's an outcome of it. So how can India ensure that its 2047 journey is inclusive, bringing rural India, women, marginalized communities into the growth story, while also staying committed to sustainability and climate goals? So what is your take on this? And can you talk about any global models followed across the world?
Yeah, I will try to share some thoughts on this. First of all, the World Economic Forum carried out a study that India's rank on the inclusivity was a poor 62 out of 74 countries that they had surveyed. That's shameful. I mentioned briefly about inclusivity, and I agree with you that not sometimes, most of the time, inclusivity would in fact deepen. Inequality would actually deepen when the growth takes place, because the growth money will be earned in fewer hands only. Now, the only thing that we can do is to make it more inclusive, look at the countries which have become inclusive. First, I'll name the old, settled, rich economies of the world. The most inclusive country in the world is supposedly Norway. And you can add to it all the other Scandinavian countries also, Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, Finland, Iceland. They all are truly inclusive countries. And I mean, some of us have personally seen this. I'll quote to that also. But among the developing economies, now these are countries which have mature democracies, mature economies, and all that. There, they have achieved inclusivity in all areas, in gender, race, ethnicity, religion. They're robust because the biggest thing that they have in the country is that their social security network, social security net is very deep, very robust. These countries pay huge amount of taxes. The rate of tax in those countries goes up to 45-50%. But in return, every citizen gets a social security net. In most of these countries, and I've seen that personally in Denmark, I have seen that in Switzerland. Recently, I was 3 months ago. I was in Zurich. There none of them is bothered about medical problems and all that. If there's a medical health care, the total thing is taken care of by the country, by the government. It's taken care of and all that. I mentioned to you that I was recently in Zurich in Switzerland. Every citizen of Switzerland, at least in Zurich, I could see, is very comfortable with the amount of money he or she is earning. Our friends there, our German friend, their daughter is a doctor there. She says, Uncle, I work only 4 days a week, and everybody in my clinic also works 4 days a week. That is quite enough for us to pay for the rents are very high. Zurich is one of the most expensive places in the world, and yet we did not see any beggars there. We did not see any sick people lying on the roadside, which one sees not only in India, but in America also one sees that. So they have been able to create that social safety net which protects people and all that. The other country that now I come to the developing economies. Some of the developing economies have also done a fantastic job on that. Singapore is on top of my list. Singapore is a place, again, very expensive place to live, but people have enough to eat, people have enough to use public transport, people have enough for their medical needs, etc., and all that. Now, that is what people, UAE, now people who were 30 years ago or 40 years ago, only they had camels. Till the oil money, like maybe 50, 40 years ago, the oil money started flowing in and, they became the richest nation in the world. But there again, in places like Dubai, I think many of us have visited Dubai also, there is huge equality of facilities there and all that. Even China to some extent, and in UAE, China, Singapore, and another country that I am going to quote is Azerbaijan. These four, I have personally seen over the last 1 year or 2 years that there is a huge amount of inclusivity in that. For example, in every field. For example, I mentioned about a few minutes ago that somebody is driving here on the wrong side, driving at 100 kilometers and kills a person, but his one call to the some high up there gets him a bail in 2 hours. That will never happen in UAE. That will never happen in Singapore. That will never happen even in Baku, in Azerbaijan, where I spent about 5-6 days last year. Now they have not. Incidentally, Azerbaijan is a Muslim country, so religiously also, but there is no fanatics there. We were most comfortable there going around there and all that. The same thing happens to a large extent in China also. Religion plays no role in that. And every worker in China, the lowest worker, he may he may have to slog for 14 hours a day in the sweatshops, but the guy earns enough to provide for his wife and children. The guy will get medical aid when it becomes necessary. Similarly, to some extent, I noticed in Hungary also, which also I'll call a developing economy. Mexico and Chile have not seen personally, but I hear from friends of wisdom that they are also much more inclusive. I haven't checked their ranks, but I'm sure on Google we can check their ranks and that. But they'll be all above India. Now, those are the kind of things which we've got to do. The biggest thing would be to creating a social safety net, and which can be I would say the taxes on people who are upper middle class and rich will have to increase. There is no doubt about that. We don't have to, I think, save the richer people. They must pay high taxes. And they are the wealth creators. We admire them. But at the same time, to achieve inclusivity, they'll have to pay higher taxes so that the government will create a social safety net. So that's the approach we have to take, nothing else.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. Now, I would like to invite questions from the audience, and I can see a couple of questions in the chat, sir. So, by your permission, can I read those questions out to you? Okay, sir. So, the first question is from Mr. Ashish Shah. He says, thank you, sir, for the insightful presentation, and he's happy with the insights you have shared. His question is, uh, that you mentioned to become a 30 trillion economy by 2047. That will make India to grow by around 9 to 10% annually. Currently, India's ICOR, I guess he's talking about incremental capital outcome ratio, is near 5. And reaching 30 trillion economy will take around $2 trillion investments additionally. How do you see this, and how is it possible?
Professor Shukla, as I said earlier, and I repeat, we will not reach 30 trillion. This is the government's target. I don't see a chance in hell. I will not be around, but my children and grandchildren will probably witness. We will be very happy. And that also subject to no natural calamities, no wars in India and all that. Those are things which, of course, can ruin anything. I think at best we might nudge 15 trillion. I don't think we'll go beyond that. And personally, I would be happy wherever I am at that time. 12, 13, 14, 15 would be fine. Our population at that time would be about 1.5 billion. So if it is 15, we will reach around, I don't know, we can do the calculation, per capita. Yeah, we'll reach a per capita income of 15. And so that will, no, if we reach 15 trillion total, it will be about $10,000 per capita. That's fine. Pretty good. If there is inclusivity, if there's a safety net, etc. I think even 10 is fine. To my mind, the softer aspects are more important than reaching a $15,000 or 30. I don't see a chance in hell of reaching 30 trillion. There's no. I know somebody in the government, if it gets to here, they might pull me up, but that's the reality.
Thanks, Professor, for your this very true figure. Actually, that was my means. I just assumed that we could only reach by that figure only. Actually, it is just matching. So, thank you for your very straight answer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I don't like to mince words. And I've got into trouble because of that at times.
But that's needed, sir. Right? We need to have honest opinions.
One, with God's grace, there's not much to lose at this age, so that's okay.
So there is another question from Mr. Akash Kumar. The question is, are every youths or students getting fair and equal opportunities in academic and education to be developed nation by 2047? Not all are getting all the facilities that IITian or IIMian are getting. So how could it be possible in India can develop nation just by few institutions? What he's trying to say, I guess, is that the kind of education which is delivered in places like IITs and IIMs, as a developed country, do we have such an education? What is the way out? This is what I can get from this question.
I think the way out is, again, I go back to this bug in my mind to first improve our primary education. And then I don't think we'll ever have even actual opportunity, totally equal opportunity, like in the USFA it was happening. Now Mr. Trump has closed that door to a large extent. I don't think he has touched the student visa fees, but I think he will pretty soon come to that also. The student visa fees also would probably go up like the H-1B visa fees have come and all that. We can expand the ambit of, you see, if IITs and IIMs and let's say another 100 good institutions in the country, there must be at least, you would probably know more about that. If they are given some funding and they are given a free hand to get faculty and to, I think they are selecting students in a very fair manner. I don't think they're being unfair in that, but there are too few seats, but too many people are seeking. I believe the entrance rate is about 2% or something like that. In that, I mean, something like what happens in the IAS or things like that. So the only way out is that 100 good core institutions of higher learning need to adopt, let's say, 10 institutes over the country. Each one of them adopts 10 institutes in the country. And we spread the good work being done that I don't see another. But the other thing is that everybody does not have to go to an IIT or an IIM or an ISB or an XLRI or anywhere. I think we need to encourage more entrepreneurship, which is being done. The startup thing is great, fantastic, wonderful. I think there is entrepreneurship in our blood and in our genes. And I think if we give that promotion, we give them a little support, little more support. We are giving them support. There is this, angel capital, and there is the venture capital, things like that. I think if we buttress that a little more, I think that system can create more jobs. And in a way, this onslaught of Mr. Trump's on the H-1B visas, I also look at the other side of the coin. I think it might do some good to us. India has always risen in the time of distress, in the time of adversity. I feel that we may be able to get something good out of it. Already we are reading in the newspapers that our GCCs might have more people, or a lot of the people who wanted to work in America might come back to India and work here and all that. So I think these are all good things that happen. We'll have the first 1 or 2 years would be hugely difficult for the country. But I think then we'll settle down and we'll improve.
Thank you, sir. So there is one more question by Mr. Gaurav Marwa. He says, the developed nations have a manufacturing to GDP ratio of around 10%. We aspire to move to a developed nation, and we are emphasizing on increasing the ratio of manufacturing to GDP ratio. Somehow, this does not resonate with the current global trends. Your view on this? Also, if we are to focus on manufacturing, don't you feel that we have missed the bus?
No, Professor Shukla, I don't think we have missed the bus. It's never too late. We had missed the bus in the semiconductors. We have now come in a mission mode. We have come to that. We had missed the bus in semiconductors one. I can't recall another thing. Solar PVs, etc. We started 15 years or 20 years late. So I would say that it's never too late if we have the intention to do that. The way we are going after semiconductors, I'm sure good thing is going to approach about that. When it comes to why do we need, I mentioned that we should reach 25% as against the present 17% and all that. You see, our population, we have a huge population. We've got to create jobs for them. The developed countries do not have that problem. America's population is 1/4 of our population, and their per capita income is more than $100,000. Now they have enough cushion to absorb a lot of the things that might happen. We don't have that. Today it's already happening to some extent that when we sort of acquired lands from the farmers and we paid huge money to them because the developers could sell the place. It is happening in every big city. It is happening, particularly in new cities like Gurgaon, which have developed. So the farmers got a lot of money from it. Now, what did they? They became overnight. They became very rich. Somebody getting 5 crores, 10 crores for a parcel and all that. So the young people said, they were talking to a parent, Papa, kya karenge paise ko? Let's buy a good car. Let's buy a Porsche. Let's buy a Merc. Let's buy a that. They did that. Then they got into company and they said, let's get imported liquor. Why can't we also drink black label and red label and blue label and gold label and all those and all that. Then they got onto drugs also, unfortunately. So that money got finished in 2 years. How much money after, how long will it last if they spend like that? And they are the ones who got into this easy money people, swanky cars and driving without any laws and rules and all that. So then they became criminals. That's where they reached. So if we are able to control that system, I once again, it might be a wrong, but keep coming to value education at young age. And these people, the moment they start respecting the rule of law, respecting life of others, respecting their elder people and the sick people and all that, I think society will change, but it'll take 10 years to 15 years. It's not going to happen in 1 year or 6 months and all that. It's going to take a long time. So societal change is a must. It must happen. And I think it will happen. And this going to 25% is important for us because we need to create jobs, and services can never create so many jobs. There are some areas of services. Tourism, for example, creates a lot of jobs. My son is involved with tourism. He heads a major travel portal, and so we often discuss this issue. Now, tourism is one bit, hospitality is another, which create jobs. But services like software services or software as a service, as the term SaaS, which has been given to us, or export, does not create, because there every one person creates revenue of huge revenues. So, but manufacturing, that is why we need manufacturing. Why do we have to import toys from China? Why do we have to import fairy lights from China? Why do we have to import this simple thing? We should make them here even they are expensive. And I like the slogan of the Prime Minister, Atmanirbharta. We should just put a ban on that.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the valuable insights. I guess we are exhausted of questions. Are there any questions? If you have, please put them in the chat. So I guess we now close here. So as we draw this session to a close, I want to once again thank you for your inspiring words, your thoughtful leadership. Today's conversation reminds us that becoming developed nation by 2047 isn't just about achieving a particular number of GDP, right? It is also about the kind of society we want to create, right? It will depend on the choices we make in areas like education, where value-based learning is as important as technical skills, or how we ensure clean air and water, better waste management, and robust public health care, and on whether we can foster true gender parity and dignity for every citizen. It will also demand societal maturity, respect for elderly, compassion for the vulnerable, and a culture where values aren't diluted by short-term goals. These are the markers of real progress. If we can align our economic growth with these human and environmental priorities, India's aspiration for 2047 will truly translate into action. On behalf of GMA, I thank you, Mr. Kalra, and all participants here for joining us in this important conversation. Let's carry these insights forward into our work, our communities, and our choices. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Professor Rahul. I just want to add that feel free to share my email ID and my phone number with anybody who wants. They can ask me questions at any time when they want to do that. I'll only request that they should first send a short WhatsApp so that I can save that number. One does it. Thank you very much. It was an honor for me and I have enjoyed.